minute early to give Facebook time to go and tell everyone that I'm about to go live. So it should be doing its stuff. And I'm going to be talking to you about social influencers today and how you can use influencer marketing to promote your business and grow your business. Very important. We're all about growth here at Big Me Up Media. So I'm going to be talking about that. Every day this week I'm doing a special. So this is on the back of me coming back from San Diego and the Social Media Marketing World Conference, where I learned loads. And there was I don't even know how many events there were on, like lectures on at any one time, but I'd say at least 6 at any one time. And so obviously you can only get to one of them. So there was 5 that I missed. However, a genius thing about social media marketing world is that you get all the recordings when you come back, and so I'm going through the recordings now. Hello Nesta Shepherd, say hello when you come on, guys, and give me a thumbs up, and also if you could tell your friends about this live and let them know, they can join as well. So over the next 5 days I'm going to be giving you hopefully what you think is great content to help you grow your fitness businesses, because let's face it, it's getting harder and harder, isn't it? And I said in my blog this morning, oh, have you noticed that Facebook isn't even there on the agenda? Hi, Hannah Bryant. And it's not on the agenda because to get on Facebook nowadays, Michael Stelzner talked about this in his keynote speech. The only way that you can cut through the algorithm is by doing things like this, live broadcasts. And I know that scares the hell out of a lot of you. That's why I'm doing that on my retreat this year. We're really looking at lives and how you can make them work for your business. And actually, I'm talking about lives, I think, later on this week as well, some stuff about that. Also, let me tell you what else is coming up. I'm talking about how you can get known. And that's from Mark Schaefer. He has written a book called Known, and his lecture was really fascinating. Also talking about the bots again. I know I talked about the bots live from San Diego when I was there, but I want to expand a little bit more on that. I've built a bot. It's in this page, the Big Me Up Media page, so that when anybody signs up, can you believe I've built a bot? It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? I am not the most techie person, but I went onto manychat.com and I dropped the link in my blog last week. So if you haven't checked that out yet, go in and check it out. And it's quite easy, you follow the steps. And it means that when people come on board now, you're growing your list all the time, and the bot kind of looks after them and sends them information. Hello Rachel Whitaker, hello Hani Manchenko, lovely to see you all here. If you can give me a thumbs up or some love hearts, that would be awesome, because it'll send it around the feed and let people know that we're live and doing it, rocking it on a Monday at lunchtime. Hanny's probably sitting there actually with a cocktail. Thank you Rachel Whitaker, thumbs up there. So today I want to talk about very much social influencers. I think this is so important. I'm really big. Hello Hannah Bryant, lots of love hearts there. I'm very big on social influence, and actually when I started thinking about this little mini series that I'm doing and the fact that I wanted to talk to you about social influencers, I had a look back at what I was doing, in 2010 when I launched my bootcamp business as well. So I ran that from 2010 to about 2014. And we did use social influencers there as well. And I'm going to be sharing with you today 4 or 5 case studies of how we've used it at Big Me Up ourselves and how our clients have used it. And it's real life examples that you can take away and run with. Any one of them would fit your business model, trust me. And then also I want to talk about why you need social influencer marketing. And it does come back to that situation with Facebook at the minute. So I'm going to talk about that very briefly. I don't want to get too geeky on you when it comes to Facebook. And then a little task at the end so that you can run with this and go off and do some of it. So the reason that I believe, and this is just my opinion, but it's usually right, as I tell all my ex-partners, I'm right, you're wrong. No, I'm joking. No, I'm not joking. That's why I'm single. I honestly believe that social influencing is, I think it's a genius way of working anyway. I love a collaboration, and it's a great way of lifting each other's businesses and helping each other, all in favour of that. But I think for us guys working particularly in the fitness and wellness world, we have tight budgets, marketing, we haven't got a lot of money to throw at Facebook ads, We haven't got a lot of money to throw at industry magazines or newspapers or radio. Not that I would sanction any of that anyway. As you know, I'm all about free publicity. Definitely get on air and published, but you know, we're in editorial rather than advertorial. That's a whole other ball game. But you know, if you want to compete with the brands and the big boys that are now coming onto social media, you have to pay a lot of money. And this is what's happening with Facebook, okay? Facebook has got nearly 2 billion people now. And in April, they've been talking about this in my world, the marketing world. Now it is running out. The ad space is running out. Hello, Claire O'Meara, welcome. And so when the ad space runs out, what do you think is going to happen to the creative space as well? It's going to run out because there's no more space for adverts. And I've been talking to a few friends about this over the weekend, and they're like, what does that mean? I don't get it. My head can't see what you're talking about there. And how I've described it is, hello Daniel Steptoe. How I've described it is when Facebook first arrived, I think it was 13 years ago, but let's face it, the rest of us have been on there. It was all universities at first. So we've been on there, you know, kind of 10 years, a decade or so, maybe 7, 8 years. Since 2010, certainly when I launched my bootcamp, we were all using Facebook then to great effect. We would put a post on Facebook, even on our profile, and say, hey, there's a new class launching, and it would fill straight away. And nowadays, you can't do that anymore. And you don't get around the algorithm, because there is no getting around the algorithm. But you've probably noticed that to get noticed nowadays, you have to pay. Now, the ad space is full in April. And it's a bit like if you were living in London, let's say Facebook is London. We were all renting houses in London in 2010 and it was dirt cheap. You know, we were spending a tenner a week and living like kings and queens and making money. Money was pouring in through the windows, the chimney, the door, it was everywhere. We were cleaning up and the brands were ignoring this silly Facebook trend that didn't go away. And now, a decade on, the brands have realised how powerful it is with their targeted marketing, and they're joining forces, and they're the ones now that have come in and they've bought up all the property, if we look at it in that analogy. They've come in and they've bought multi-million-pound mansions because they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a day. We cannot compete with that. Yes, we can do things like lives, but in the big picture game, you know, in a year, a decade, it's going to be out of our price range. Facebook is going to be like television advertising is now, I believe. And so we need to move out to the suburbs and go somewhere else to play where it's still cheap and where we can build a new town again. You know, we were the only ones in that city centre for a long time. We had the run of the city. Now we're having to move out to Instagram, where there's only 600 million users a day on there. You can get noticed a lot quicker. Twitter, I still love Twitter. I know people say, oh, Twitter's a bit dead, but it's not, especially if you use lists. If you try and use Twitter, you know, just with the general Twitter, that's a big place to play. But by using lists, you can really get strategic in what you're doing there. Snapchat, which I don't do, but I realise that some people are on there. Mainly that younger market, I think. It's certainly not my crowd, so there's no point me playing there. Pinterest, you know, in America, Pinterest is still quite big. And over here, there's not many men using Pinterest. So if you are a man in the fitness and wellness business, I would be all over Pinterest. Because that is a very empty playground right now. But I'm going off on a tangent, as I always do. So, coming back to influencer marketing, the ad spend is going to be going up. And so we are going to be priced out. We have to find new ways of getting people to come to us, attracting our audience. As you know, I love a bit of free publicity, and I still think that's a genius way of becoming an expert, positioning yourself and attracting an audience to you, attraction marketing. But another way you can do this is social influencer marketing. And I'm going to talk through now some examples of how we've used social influencer marketing and how some of our clients have used social influencer marketing and how I used it myself in San Diego. I was a little bit cheeky. I've got another one. I'm not sure whether to tell you about it or not because it's not quite come off yet, but I got a message today and it's looking promising. I might save that one. So with the bootcamp, how I would use social influencers, and a social influencer is just somebody who is who has influence, who has an audience that you need, a shared audience that you want to get in front of. And so if you have a product or a service that would fit their audience very nicely and you're not treading on their toes in what you sell, then it's a good idea to joint venture and do a partnership there. So when we first launched our boot camp, we got in touch with all the local shops, the hairdressers, photographers, anybody really that dealt with weddings, because anybody to do with weddings is kind of, really with the fitness and wellness business, you're in the beauty world. So it's people that want to look better. So we would work with nail bars, hairdressers, and we would give them special coupons to give their clients like a 10 or 20% discount. And in exchange, they would give their flyers or tell their database about our boot camp. So that was one way that we used it. Another very good influential way that we tapped into influencer marketing was with local journalists, because local journalists have this very glamorous job, and I'm speaking from experience here. We're great at dinner parties, we can tell you all kinds of stories, but we earn very little as a journalist. Even when you're even when you're working on the broadsheets, you would think that they were raking in thousands. It was their expense account that was bringing in the dollars, not their salary, trust me. It was very low. And so journalists are always looking for perks, but you're not allowed to offer them a perk outright. So you can't say, hey, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. That's not on. However, you could say, and we did to local journalists, why don't you come and have a free VIP pass to my summer camp or Christmas camp or whatever it is you're promoting. And you know, who knows, one day you might want to do a story on us. There's no attachments at all. And we did that with a number of journalists, and it worked very well in our favour, because guess what? When a big news story broke, who did they ring? Of course they rang, you know, the trainer that trained them every day, because they knew they'd get a great quote. So we became a regular contributor to newspapers, radio, magazines in the area, and that helped to grow our boot camp as well. So that's just one way that you could use influencer marketing, by tapping into that local community and doing discounted products, but it's very targeted, very strategic, and also getting that local publicity with that local footfall that might want to come to your area. Now, another great way of doing this is what Donna Noble did when Donna was working with me, and she'd launched Curve Some Yoga, and she was trying to get the brand a bigger platform. And so we used Twitter in this occasion to approach celebrities and let them know that she was doing Curve Some Yoga and get them to be ambassadors for the cause. And she got in touch with Lisa Riley, who worked with her, Lisa from Emmerdale, and I think also she did a game show that I can't remember the name of now, the one where they all fall over and everybody laughs, but I don't think it's really funny. Something like that anyway. So she was working very much with Lisa Riley, and once she got photographs of them together and she had her in the Curve Some Yoga t-shirt, she could then leverage that on social media. So she would position herself in the marketplace much higher than she was, because now she's working with, you know, English celebrities, actresses, who were in Panto every year, doing these game shows and everything, very well known. And she could put that all over Twitter, all over Facebook. They were collaborating on certain projects as well. So that was very useful for Donna in raising her brand profile. So if you need to raise your brand profile, have a look at Twitter, celebrities. And do you know, nowadays, you know how we used to have that 6 degrees of separation? You're only 6 people away from somebody famous. That is all gone by the by nowadays, because there is no degree of separation. She got in touch with Lisa Riley literally by following her. I think she followed her back, because you have to message, and then messaged her. Easy. I've used this a lot myself just recently on Instagram Messenger. You know, when you're watching stories, if you press send message to somebody, when I met Amy Porterfield in Social Media Marketing World Conference, I messaged her. She was talking about the that she was getting her hair done, ready for it. And I messaged to say, hey Amy, we have a mutual friend in Devon Duncan, because I mentored with Devon and Melanie about 3 years ago and went to Paris on a mastermind with them and sat next to Devon at lunch. He's so lovely. And Devon is Amy's business partner nowadays. And so I just dropped her a message and said, I really hope to see you. I'm coming to your talk and everything. So that when I went to her talk and then said hello afterwards, I had quite a nice little chat with her, because I'd already broken down that barrier and there was no degree of separation. I could just contact Amy. She's there on Instagram. And it led to, I think you probably saw them on social media, about 4 different pictures, because we were chatting and her assistant took the pictures for us, which was great. And that leveraged my position in the marketplace. It's like, hey, look at her. She's over in San Diego meeting all these, famous people in the marketing world. So using Messenger, because like I say, there's only 600 million users on Instagram daily, and also not many people use the Messenger feature at the moment. Hopefully you lot will be changing all that today. I still haven't revealed, by the way, my genius stroke at San Diego at the conference. That's still to come. When we're looking at influencer marketing, another way that we use this with Big Meal was back in the early days when Katie Bulmer Cook was working with us, and she wanted to promote her global brand. And also, as you know, she wanted to be on television, which she did. And she had this DVD, I think it was like a DVD or certainly an online product for pregnant ladies. So we used one of the biggest social influencers of, I don't know, any time, the royal family, because Kate Middleton at the time was pregnant with George. And so Katie sent her a copy of her online program. And I knew, having worked as a journalist on the local press, that whenever you send anything to a royal, you generally get a letter back from Buckingham Palace, which is really nice, saying thank you very much for the gift. You know, when they have children christened, you always get somebody who appears on the local news that's crocheted a blanket and they've used it, that kind of thing. So I knew it would work, and I knew that, well, I didn't know, but I was 99% sure that we would get a letter from the palace. And then we could leverage that letter from the palace and put it on Twitter and, use it in your social media marketing afterwards, which she did. And it did increase global sales, and they got publicity with her partner, who was out in New Zealand, I think it was at the time as well. So that led to an increase in sales and, global recognition. Hi, we've got more people joining. Welcome. So, think about situations that are current in the news. What can you tap into? Like when Kate Middleton was pregnant and it fit perfectly with Katie's product. Hey presto, 2 and 2 does make 4. So look at what's happening in the world and what you can tap into. What else have we used this with? With Katie, that led to sales. With Donna, it was all about branding. And with the bootcamp, it was about increasing numbers and publicity. Also with Katie, that did obviously help her when she wanted publicity as well. A couple of other examples, both from me this time. One is I wanted to increase my email list because I do a lot of email marketing. And so I tapped into a fellow fitness and marketing guru in Lucy Johnson, and I cross-promoted Lucy's workshop, and in exchange she cross-promoted my 30-day challenge, which I was running at the time. When we did that cross-promotion, it doubled my email list because she was a social influencer. If I was at that point was like a 5 out of 10 and she was like an 8 or 9 out of 10. So who in your marketplace, if you're a 5, who in your marketplace is a 9 or 10? So think about how you can go up a level and tap into their audience too. Don't be afraid. It's very scary actually getting in touch with somebody who's like up here and you feel like you're way down here. But don't be afraid. Just ask. The worst that can happen is that they'll say no. And no harm done. And if they say yes, genius. And the other way that I used this was, when I went to San Diego, I had 2 or 3 goals in mind, and one of my goals was to meet Pat Flynn, because I've been trying to get on Pat Flynn's podcast for ages, and I've been on his maybe list for quite a while. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was get in front of him so that I could have a little chat with him. I didn't want to hassle him. You don't want to hassle people, but I just wanted to get on his radar. And he's talked about this openly in his podcasts as well. You know, he talks about somebody did a video and put the video all over social media, and that got his attention, and that got her onto his podcast. So sometimes you have to stand out in the crowd, and certainly using a social influencer is a great way of standing out in the crowd or getting on a social influencer's radar. So that morning I went up to the convention centre, and I knew that Pat Flynn was having a get together at the WeWork complex. Now the tickets had sold out, so there was no way I was getting in with a ticket. So I did a little piece to camera just saying that I knew this party was going on, that I was on the wait list as usual, and that I really wanted to go, and that if I didn't get in, I probably would gate crash the party. I was hoping the Twitter thing would be enough for him to say, oh, let her in, let her ticket go through, because she's obviously applied for a ticket. But he didn't. And so I think it was about 5:30 that night. There was 4 of us, British girls, that went across town it wasn't even an Uber, it was a Lyft, which Lyfts are amazing. So we went across town in a Lyft to the WeWork building, and 2 of them had tickets, 2 of us didn't. And basically, we just used the line of, oh my God, we love Pat. We've crossed the Atlantic in the hope of seeing him. Please, 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 can we come inside? And they were like, oh, your accents are so amazing. They probably didn't talk like that, but they loved our British accents. And so they let us in. And then Pat was just there. Oh, I love Pat. So it was a great party. Free margaritas, which were very strong, and free tacos. It was brilliant. And beer and coffee and tea. So we go through the WeWork meeting place onto the rooftop terrace beyond, where there's all these games going on. And then I see Pat. I'm like, oh my God. I went all gooey, and I went up to him and I said, oh, we've totally gate crashed your party. Like, I couldn't not say. I was like, oh my God, we've totally gate crashed your party. And he's like, oh, that's fine. And then he said, you're the girl from Twitter. No, he doesn't speak like that. You're the girl from Twitter this morning. And I said, yes, I am. He's like, well, you did say you were going to gate crash. And then, of course, I'm going to follow that up this week and drop him a message, maybe even like a video message, or actually we had a picture taken, and so that will remind him. And so I'll be like, I said to him, I've been trying to get on your podcast. He's like, oh, you should totally just get in touch with me. So I will. I'm going to follow it up. I've left it for a little while because everyone goes a bit crazy after events and bombards people. So I've kind of left it a little bit. And this week I'm going to follow up with that. So if you've got somebody who, that you really want to be on their podcast, or maybe they're writing a book and you want to contribute to their book, or I don't know, somebody that's like way up here, you could go on Twitter too and do a little piece to camera. I did a live, and then I just posted it on Twitter as well. So you could do a live broadcast, tag them in it. Remember, there's no degrees of separation anymore. You can get straight to them. He'd seen me that morning. You just got to be a little bit cheeky. You don't want to be a pest. I only did it the once. I didn't then follow him around the conference. Can you imagine? Hi Pat, it's me again. So it wasn't stalkerish. So I just did my bit and then left him to it. And we'll find out, won't we, if it works or not, if I get on his podcast in the next few months. But at least I'm in with a better shout than I was previously. So that's something else that you could do. Now, I would recommend that when you're doing influencer marketing, you only really want to do this with your signature programs. You don't want to be doing it all the time with like something small that you're bringing out just for summer or something. You want to do it with your big programs, stuff that is worth them getting behind, really. So I would say that. The other thing, the argument that I hear when I say to people, oh, you need to use influencer marketing, which quite often means giving people stuff for free. So access to your programs or services for free. And they're like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm far too valuable. I value my own worth too much to be able to do that. And I just think it's a narrow point of view, because you're not giving it for free. What you're doing is buying into their audience, buying their network, which is very valuable. And if you want growth, you need to get outside your circle. And if you try and do that organically, it's going to take you forever. So it's much better when you all work together and collaborate and lift each other up. And you see this quite often with people working in groups. You know, I work with a lot of female gurus in the industry, and we all support each other. We go and talk at each other's events, we'll go and mastermind with them, and we all help each other, and we all share the audience, and we all give back to the audience. So if you're thinking, I'm not doing anything for free, then you'll be on your own for a very long time, in my opinion. It's much better to do that free stuff and offer your services, and then when they mention you, oh my God, then watch it all explode. Some of the places that you could probably work with when you're thinking about, okay, who can I go to do these joint ventures, and who are my social influencers? Hi Sonko, Nesta Shepherd says, this is great info, thank you. You're welcome. Are you all finding this quite interesting? I've nearly finished, don't worry, I'm not going to go on too long, but is it interesting? Is it something that you've thought about before? Or is this all quite new to you? I've tried to show you, well, I have showed you real examples there of how it works. Awesome, I'm getting thumbs up there. The other thing I want to mention, just before I mention actually where you can go to, and there's two levels I want you to think about when you do go to these social influencers, is the platforms. I've mentioned Twitter. You know, we use Twitter a lot to get in touch with celebrities. Oh, brilliant, Tanya's saying absolutely. So Twitter is very, very valuable, and you could create a Twitter list of celebrities that you would like to connect to, maybe a string of magazines or television shows. You know, you can create these Twitter lists to keep an eye on what people are doing in the industry. So I find Twitter very useful. I find Instagram very useful because of what I was saying about the stories and following people's stories. You know, people can see who's looking at the stories. I mean, I follow Gary Vaynerchuk, and I'm often, well, I'm always on his thing, so I'm sure he sees me cropping up every day. And I've messaged him, and I've messaged D-Rock before, and you know, eventually they'll start to think, oh, there's Big Net Media again, and so I'll start to get on their radar. It's a slow, long job. That's another thing you have to have, of course, as Gary says, patience. But Twitter and Instagram, I think, are two of the most influential places that you can go for influencers. There's also another place that a lot of people forget and don't even think about going to, and it's called the real world. So when we were doing our boot camp, it wasn't people on any social media platform, it was people living in the community, and I'm so big on this online-offline collaboration as well. I think that's the way business is going, that you know, the Dream Life Academy, yes, we meet online and they get the access online to all the stuff, but we meet offline as well, and that's when the magic happens. And so think about who's in the real world, who lives in your neighbourhood, and that brings me very neatly onto who could you do joint ventures with, who could you approach to be an influencer. Olympians is an obvious choice for people in the fitness and wellness world. So you know, if you look at what Olympians are in your town, obviously when the Olympics aren't on, it's a bit quiet, and they can do a lot of PR work and stuff like that. Also, it's worth checking out what their charities are. They quite often support a charity, and if your boot camp or your Pilates class or your yoga classes support a particular local charity that is the same as their local charity, you might end up on the podium together, or they would certainly be more inclined to come on board with whatever projects you're doing, especially if you're holding an event like a charity day to raise money for their things, or maybe you're doing something to promote fitness for children in schools. Anything that's doing good for the community, celebrities are quite often quite keen to support and won't always require a fee. Because as we know, we have very little budget. Schools is another obvious choice. So if you can do work in schools, we used to do as the boot camp, when the Olympics was on, we would go on and do an Olympic style sports day. And then in exchange for that, they would put our flyers in the book bags to go home with the kids. So another good example of boot camps. Your local authority, so the local council, a lot of them have events and schemes whereby they help families to learn how to cook from scratch, or they learn how to live more healthily. They all have different names in different parts of the country. But if you got in touch with your local authority, your local council, and that can be, you know, parish, city, or county-wide, it's definitely worth a conversation. The other good thing that happens with councils is that if they do a link back to your website, that is brilliant for your SEO, because it's seen as a very high ranking, because local councils are linked to local government, and therefore, you know, Whitehall. It's a very good link to have on your website, really good for SEO. So working with schools, local authorities, Olympians. Also have a look at models and vloggers, particularly on Instagram and particularly on Twitter again. So if you were to go on Instagram and do a search in the search bar with hashtag the name of your town, hashtag model or vlogger, that's going to bring up a raft of people. And if they've got, I don't know, 10,000 followers, 20,000, 30,000 followers, and you said, hey, come and do my signature program, or hey, I'll give you a month of free one-to-one coaching if they've got like a big event coming up and going to get them look amazing for it. And then in exchange, you know, they're going to tell their people about it, and maybe you'll say, you know, all I want you to do is a selfie while you're training, maybe a little piece to camera after 3 weeks. So you already set in place what you want from them, and don't go overboard, you know, go easy. So literally just like selfies, and you know what, if they love what you do, they're going to rave about you anyway. But I would look for vloggers and models. We were lucky enough to work in Nottingham. Actually, this didn't come off, but it would have been genius if it did. At the time, there was only one other Hooters. And no, there was one Hooters in the UK, and it was in Nottingham. And so we approached all the girls at Hooters because they looked good already. We were just going to improve on what they'd already got going on. So we did approach them and said, hey, if any of you girls want to come down. Also great for pictures, of course, to make your boot camp look really good. That one didn't come off, but if it had have done, it would have been genius. So maybe there's like a model agency in your town. You could approach them and offer them some free stuff, because again, they don't have a lot of money. You know, they're struggling, they have expensive wardrobes and transport. You know, they're always up and down to London for photo shoots and stuff. Makeup, not cheap. So if they can save money and get some free training with you, I think they'd jump at the chance. The other thing that I want to wrap up with sorry, talking so much, is thinking up. So we've talked about people kind of at an ordinary level that can be influencers for you, but I also want you to think up. So like I was just talking about, you know, Pat Flynn was up here compared to me, but I went for it. Lucy Johnson, you know, she was up here when I approached her, and I went for it as well, and she helped me double my list. So think about celebrities in your area that you could go to. Maybe there's YouTube stars. So go on YouTube and have a little bit of a search to see if there's any YouTube stars in your area that you could tap into. Maybe there's some podcasters that you could reach out to, and they could be national. You know, you can train people online. It doesn't have to be people that live in your city. So think about who you want to work with and who is an influencer, whose audience can you tap into. And that really is where I'm going to leave it today. I want you to think about maybe 3 people, you know, who, and think of it in this way: who can you help? Yes, you're going to help yourself, because ultimately you're going to grow your business. You're either going to get publicity off the back of it, or you're going to raise your brand, or you're going to get new clients, or you're going to get publicity. So they're all strategic methods. Much better, I believe, than Facebook ads nowadays, because they're so expensive. This costs nothing. All you got to do is reach out to people, and then a bit of like work on social media, sharing it. So, I mean, can you think off the top of your head anybody that you want to approach? Or do you think you're going to use this? Pop a note in the chat box and let me know. Is this something that you're likely to have a go at in the future? How am I doing for time? Absolutely, says Tanya. Or did you say that before? I'm not sure. Might be putting words in your mouth there, Tanya. Is this something that you're likely to use? Or do you think it's just not worth it, or not in your realm, like something that you would feel too awkward about? It's hard putting yourself out there. I get that. Pop in the chat box. Hi, Gay. Oh, Gay, you've come in right at the end. Okay, brilliant. Rachel Whitaker says, ooh, I'm having some ideas. Brilliant. Can you share them, Rachel, or not? I mean, Rachel, I know that Rachel does logistics and warehousing for beauty brands. So she works with a lot of beauty brands. So for Rachel, I mean, I think, you know, the beauty bloggers is a perfect place to go to. Nesta says, yes, a little awkward. She feels a little awkward. I think whenever you feel like that, Nesta, the way I turn it around in my head is instead of thinking, oh, I feel awkward, I don't think I can do this, I flip it and think, how can I help this person? Yes, you've got a shared audience, and yes, they're not stupid, they're going to know why you're getting in touch with them. But I think once you turn it around in your own head, then it's a lot easier to knock on their door and say, hey, I think I can help you. It's like Pat Flynn, right? I really want to be on his podcast because I think I can help his audience generally, but also the fitness and wellness world, some of them know about Pat, but not everybody that I speak. I talk about Pat Flynn and they're like, who? Because they're not known. So I could introduce him to my 10,000, I know that's not a lot, I'm small fry, but I've got like 10,000 social media followers. Across all platforms, but I can say to him, look, I can introduce you to my 10,000 social media followers, and who doesn't want 10,000 new eyeballs? Well, that technically would be 20,000 new eyeballs. So, okay guys, I'm going to leave you there thinking and mulling over. I'm not sure what I'm talking about tomorrow, but I shall release some details on the old stories, Facebook stories and Instagram stories tomorrow. But I did blog about the 5 topics that I'm going to be talking about. I know the bots are coming, we're going to be talking about the bots. I know I'm going to be talking about how to get known, and I know I'm talking about how to create beautiful Instagram images. That's on Friday. There was one other, I can't remember what the other one is. But I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, could you please give me some love hearts, because that helps it go across Facebook even more and lets people know that we've been live, and I'll be cutting through the algorithm, and I'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock as well. Thank you very much, and good night.